The ancient wound, you felt it, the queasy pull of avoidance when a hard truth glimmers at the edge of your awareness. The way you suddenly remember an urgent email when a friend asks, "Are you happy?" The reflexive deflection when someone critiques your choices. You don't understand my trauma, my workload, my generational struggle. This isn't laziness. This is evolution. For over 200,000 years, the human brain has been fine-tuned for one purpose: survival, not meaning. Our ancestors didn't ponder their purpose while fleeing saber-toothed tigers. But modernity has left us stranded in a neurological paradox. We've inherited a survival brain in a world that demands existential courage. Jordan Peterson's critics dismiss his focus on responsibility as bootstraps rhetoric. They miss the deeper horror he's pointing to. We are the first generation tasked with building meaning in a universe that no longer provides it. The God-shaped hole, Nietzsche warned us. God is dead, and we have killed him. But he failed to predict what would crawl into the vacancy. The 21st century didn't abandon transcendence. It outsourced it. We swapped cathedrals for corporate ladders, communion for Netflix binges, confessionals for Twitter rants. The result? A collective dissociation so profound that we've forgotten how to forget. Ancient humans sacrificed goats to appease the gods. Modern humans sacrifice authenticity to appease algorithms. We've replaced divine judgment with social media metrics, and the hellfire of damnation with the icy terror of irrelevance. Carl Jung saw this coming. His concept of the shadow, the repressed, grotesque aspects of ourselves, wasn't just about personal growth. It was a prophecy. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And here we are, the Stockholm Syndrome of the soul. Why do we cling to victimhood like a life raft? Why does toxic positivity outsell stoicism by 10-1 on Amazon? The answer lies in Schopenhauer's brutal truth. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. We are biological puppets haunted by the illusion of free will. To take responsibility is to stare into this abyss, to admit that your choices are often just conditioned reflexes wearing a mask of autonomy. Modernity weaponizes this truth. Social media algorithms feed you curated outrage to keep you addicted to helplessness. Corporations sell you mindfulness apps to fix the anxiety their profit models create. Even therapy, once a space for brutal self-honesty, often devolves into "you're perfect as you are," affirmations that rot teeth with their sweetness. Jean-Paul Sartre called it bad faith, the act of lying to yourself to escape freedom's burden. But today, bad faith isn't a choice. It's an ecosystem. The neurochemistry of avoidance. Let's get clinical. When you scroll TikTok to avoid writing that novel, your brain isn't being weak. It's executing a perfect evolutionary protocol. Dopamine, the seek and reward neurotransmitter, floods your system not when you achieve, but when you anticipate. The slot machine logic of endless scrolling isn't an accident. It's a $1 trillion industry built on your limbic system's wiring. Now layer this with Viktor Frankl's observation from Auschwitz. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Our crisis isn't that we lack comfort, but that we lack crisis. The brain craves meaningful struggle, like plants crave sunlight. Deprived of it, we manufacture drama, political crusades, office gossip, Instagram feud, anything to simulate the why that responsibility provides. This is why Peterson's message triggers such visceral backlash. He isn't just asking you to clean your room. He's demanding you dismantle the entire Skinner box of modern distraction. The postmodern trap. Enter the dragon. Identity politics. Camille Paglia, the feminist iconoclast, once warned, identity is the opposite of individuality. When you reduce yourself to a constellation of labels, victim, oppressor, neurodivergent, cishet, you're not speaking your truth. You're signing a psychic rental agreement with collective ideology. Your pain becomes currency. Your trauma becomes a brand. Your soul becomes real estate for political agendas. This isn't empowerment. It's metaphysical serfdom. Douglas Murray's The Madness of Crowds exposes the bait and switch. We're told to live our truth while being policed into smaller and smaller boxes of acceptable reality. Responsibility dies here. When your flaws become systemic and your virtues privilege, the very concept of personal agency evaporates. You don't need to clean your room. You need to burn down the patriarchy/colonialism/capitalism that made it messy. Except the room stays dirty, and you stay stuck. The existential bypass, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, got one thing wrong. We don't need a totalitarian state to control us. We'll anesthetize ourselves voluntarily. Observe. Dating apps that turn romance into a gamified shopping experience. Wellness culture that pathologizes normal human sadness. Education systems that teach compliance over critical thought. These aren't conspiracies. They're emergent properties of a society that conflates comfort with progress. When discomfort is framed as trauma and responsibility as oppression, the psyche's immune system atrophies. We become allergic to the very struggles that confer meaning. Peterson's uncomfortable truth is this: responsibility isn't oppression, it's the antidote to it. By refusing to bear life's weight, you don't escape suffering. You merely outsource it to your future self, your relationships, your children. The cliffhanger. But here's where it gets dangerous. The man from Section 1, the CEO choking on his own success, isn't just battling personal failure. He's up against 500,000 years of evolutionary wiring, $10 trillion in industries profiting from his avoidance, and a culture that equates responsibility with fascism. How does one person fight that? The answer lies in a radical reinterpretation of human nature itself, one that Nietzsche hinted at, Jung mapped, and Peterson weaponized. It begins with a question that will make your skin crawl. What if your worst flaws aren't mistakes, but masterpieces? Next, the unseen consequences, how avoidance shapes your reality without you knowing.